On the wedding day, Ethan's childhood friend snatched the cup of nuptial wine from my hand. She clung to Ethan, drinking with him, while grinning at me and saying, "Claire, you've already taken Ethan away. I just want to have a cup of nuptial wine with him, that's not too much, right?" I turned to look at Ethan, but he avoided my gaze and affectionately smiled at her, saying, "You're my sister, it's perfectly normal for us to have a drink together, no need to ask her." Hearing this, the childhood friend laughed coquettishly and hooked her arm around his, while Ethan lowered his head accordingly, and the two drank the nuptial wine very intimately. People around whispered, and I stood there, completely disappointed in Ethan. Sensing the change in my expression, Ethan's childhood sweetheart fearfully hid in his arms. "Claire, you're not angry and going to hit me, are you?" Ethan immediately frowned and looked over, warning in a low voice, "Today is a day of great joy, don't cause trouble without reason." Saying that, he walked over and picked up the wedding ring to put it on my hand. I took a step back, my expression calm. "We've already drunk the unity wine, the couple who should exchange rings is you two." My step back was too obvious, Ethan's hand holding the ring frozen midair, and his face quickly darkened because of my words. His dark eyes stared at me intently, his gaze full of dissatisfaction. "Claire, what do you mean?" I looked at him calmly. "I don't mean anything, just telling you that the bride's spot has been vacated by me, you can continue the ceremony." As the words fell, Ethan's face grew even uglier. He looked at me with a frustrated and puzzled gaze. "Do you have to make a scene today? So many people are waiting, if you don't cooperate, what will they think of me and Coco?" After speaking to himself, Ethan took a step forward and forcefully grabbed my arm. He warned me again in a low voice, "Claire, put away those filthy thoughts of yours. Coco and I have grown up together since we were little, and I've always treated her like a sister. Coco did overdo it a bit today, but in the end, it's not a big deal. You're going to be her sister-in-law in the future, don't you have even a little bit of tolerance?" Ethan was too rough, I clenched my fists in pain. When I looked up at him, his eyes scolded me as if I were being childish, which made my chest ache with anger. Sister? If Coco had no feelings for Ethan, why would she cling to him for the shared cup of wine at such an important occasion? And Ethan, if he really considered Coco a sister, why would he let her act so wildly? The two of them disregarded my feelings and got intimate in public, causing people to gossip and ruining my dignity. I was lucky I didn't slap them on the spot, why should I even cooperate? I gritted my teeth and looked at the man I had loved for 3 years, suppressing the anger in my heart as I said, "Let go of me." Ethan felt my struggle, and the last bit of patience in his eyes disappeared. He frowned displeased and said to me, "Haven't I already explained? What are you still fussing about? Do you have to make a scene that can't be resolved just to be happy?" Coco came over and pretended to stop me. "Claire, just stop making a fuss with Ethan. He got up early this morning to prepare things for the wedding and is especially attentive to you. Actually, after all, it's still my fault. I didn't expect you to care so much about the playful teasing between Ethan and me. I apologize to you, please don't make things difficult for Ethan." Coco was good at playing the victim. At this moment, her eyes were red as if she had suffered a great grievance. Ethan was already dissatisfied with me, and at this moment, seeing Coco apologizing, a look of pity for her instantly appeared in his eyes. "Coco, you don't need to apologize to her. It's her own suspicious nature, seeing everything as dirty, it has nothing to do with you." After he said that, he looked at me with disappointment in his eyes, his voice angry. "Claire, I can explain to you if you misunderstand me, but you cannot misunderstand Coco. She is a pure and innocent girl. Have you ever thought about how your words would damage her reputation? You better apologize to her quickly, or else there's no need to go through with this marriage." He was disappointed and angry, but I was even more disappointed and angrier than him. I suddenly shook off his hand, lifted my skirt, stepped back, and met his gaze. Seeing that Ethan was certain I would lower my head and apologize, my voice turned cold. "You don't need to threaten me. This marriage was never necessary to begin with. At first, I agreed to marry into the Xie family because Ethan was good-looking and there were no other women around him. Who would have thought that just after we got engaged last year, that childhood friend who went abroad to study came back? My sisters advised me to be cautious, but I thought, they've known each other for so many years, if there were feelings, they would have been together long ago. Ethan is attentive, he never forgets my birthday or anniversaries, and he often prepares little surprises for me. Whenever he had a business trip or was meeting someone, he always reported to me every moment. He gave me a sense of security, and I gave him my trust. But I never expected I was so wrong. Ever since Coco came back, Ethan's attitude towards me has changed. We agreed to go on a date, but he agreed one moment and then disappeared the next. I couldn't reach him for a whole day and night. Worried about his safety, I stayed up all night and even called the police. When he came back, he only said to me, "Coco was in a bad mood yesterday, so I accompanied her to the beach to relax." No apology, no comforting words for me at all. I was so angry that I had a big fight with him and told him that even if he considered Coco as a sister, he shouldn't have stayed alone with her for a whole day and night. Ethan has always had a good temper in front of me, but that time, when he heard what I said, he angrily shouted at me. "I already said Coco is my sister, can you stop thinking the worst of others?" After saying that, he slammed the door and even sent me screenshots showing he had booked 2 rooms. When I realized I had misunderstood him, I took the initiative to apologize and we made up as before. But disappointment is something that, once experienced, can happen countless times. Ethan no longer treats me as attentively as before, the little surprises stopped, the updates ceased, and even my messages took a long time to get a reply. When I ask, he says he has something going on. When I ask again, it's always related to Coco, without exception. I will never forget the last time I called Ethan when I was hospitalized after the car accident, and he impatiently said, "Claire, when did you become just like those women? Coco twisted her ankle, I was just here to check on her, is it necessary for you to lie?" At that moment, my chest hurt so much it almost went numb. I cried a lot, feeling so heartbroken that I even thought about calling off the wedding. But thinking about the upcoming wedding and all the good things Ethan had done for me, I still felt unwilling to give up. Ethan is my first love, and I wanted to give him one last chance. But when I gave him that chance, he publicly drank the nuptial cup with Coco, trampling on my dignity and face, and even told me to be tolerant. My last bit of unwillingness disappeared. I took a deep breath, looked up at Ethan who was standing there in shock, and said word by word, "Ethan, I want to break off our engagement." Ethan came to his senses, his expression unusually flustered. He was about to say something when Coco, who had been quiet all along, knelt down crying before me. "Claire, you can't break off the engagement with Ethan. You know very well that the Xie family needs the Jiang family's help now. Aren't you just forcing him? I know you're unhappy because of me, and I apologize to you. Rest assured, I will never appear in front of Ethan again." She cried with tears streaming down her face, almost fainting. Ethan, whose eyes had been somewhat panicked just moments ago, instantly looked at me with contempt and anger. He didn't hesitate to reach out and pull Coco up from the ground, then turned to scold me, "Claire, have you caused enough trouble? Coco's family has just suffered a sudden misfortune and is already pitiful, why do you have to pick on her? Don't think you're so great just because your Jiang family is wealthy. Even if the Xie family doesn't cooperate with your Jiang family, we can still get through tough times. If you keep pushing me, I still won't abandon Coco." I thought I was already thoroughly disappointed in Ethan, but now I realize I can be even more disappointed. We've been together for 3 years, and I thought he understood my character. But in Ethan's eyes, I am someone who would threaten him just to drive Coco away. I sneered and said, "Believe it or not, I will break off the engagement with you. From now on, no matter how much you take care of Coco, it has nothing to do with me." I lifted my skirt and turned to walk out. Ethan caught up with me in a few steps and grabbed me. "Claire, stop messing around, the ceremony isn't over yet." I didn't know how to get away from him, and my eyes met Coco's behind him, full of unwillingness. Coco glared at me fiercely, then deliberately pushed the nearby table to make a noise, and the next second pretended to faint on the ground. Ethan heard the noise and looked back, his pupils suddenly contracted, his expression instantly became tense, and even the hand holding my arm seemed to loosen slightly. If I had seen Ethan like this before, I would have been heartbroken and unable to sleep all night. But now, I no longer care. "Ethan, your childhood sweetheart has fainted, why don't you go take care of her?" Ethan was stunned when he heard me, looking at me with surprise. But Coco fainted, and the situation was urgent, leaving no time for him to hesitate. The next moment, he still let go of my hand and hurriedly ran over to pick up Coco. I was not surprised by his choice. While Ethan carried her away, ignoring everyone's gaze, I also lifted my skirt and left. But what surprised me was that just after getting into the car, Ethan's mother called. I answered the phone, and immediately heard Ethan's mother's displeased voice. "Claire, wasn't it Auntie who said Ethan is immature? Why are you causing trouble along with him? Today, on this joyous day, so many important and influential people have come, and now that you have all left, our two families will be laughed at. Like this, you hurry back now and stabilize the situation first. I'll immediately call Ethan to come back. Ethan's mother arranged things for me in a high and mighty tone, and I couldn't help but laugh out loud. When the Xie family came to seek a marriage alliance, Ethan's mother always said she would treat me like her own daughter in the future. In fact, she did treat me well at one time, but once she saw that my heart was completely devoted to Ethan, she began to change. She cared less and less about me and rarely showed any concern anymore. After the last time I had a car accident and quarreled with Ethan, I chose to endure silently. Since then, she seems even more convinced that I must be her son's partner, often sending me messages telling me that women should be magnanimous. I have long been annoyed by her completely opposite attitudes before and after. Since I am going to separate from Ethan, there is naturally no need to keep enduring. I smiled and replied to her, "Aunt, Ethan publicly sharing a close toast with Coco, even if mocked, it's your Xie family being mocked. I have already decided to separate from Ethan. Instead of calling me, you should think about how to get through the difficulties of the Xie family." Ethan's mother was shocked by my words, but just as she opened her mouth, I hung up the phone. After hanging up the phone, I realized Ethan had sent me a message. "I'll come back after I take Coco to the hospital." Probably because I didn't reply, he sent another message less than 2 minutes later. "Claire, don't overthink it, I really just see Coco as a little sister." He hasn't explained like this for a long time. Ever since I started arguing with him over Coco, every time the topic of his relationship with Coco comes up, he gets very angry and says I'm being dirty-minded. I don't know why he suddenly started explaining again, but I couldn't be bothered to think too much. I've spent so much time on him, and now that we're finally about to separate, there's no need to torture myself with more thoughts. After returning to my own house, I thought for a moment and still sent a message to my parents who were angry and had gone traveling. At first, when I met Ethan, my parents were quite satisfied with his appearance and abilities. But after the engagement, Ethan was always hanging out with Coco who had returned to the country, and my parents started to have objections to him. They advised me to break up with Ethan early, but by then we had been together for 2 years. 2 years of relationship can't just be ended so easily. I forgave him again and again, and my parents were extremely disappointed in me. I didn't tell them that this wedding was my last chance for Ethan. They couldn't stand Ethan, and out of anger towards me, they went traveling directly. After I sent a message explaining the current situation, my parents were very happy. They said they would come back immediately and told me not to forgive Ethan anymore. Of course, I wouldn't forgive him again. Looking at the messages from my parents on my phone, happy yet cautiously comforting me, I suddenly felt very regretful. How could I have disappointed my parents again and again because of that one person? I should have made up my mind to separate from him long ago. I changed out of the glaringly ugly wedding dress, and my phone suddenly rang. I glanced over and saw it was Ethan calling. Without a second thought, I immediately blocked him. After deciding to separate from him, I suddenly found Ethan very annoying. The person who hadn't replied to messages or answered calls after arguments for nearly a year suddenly remembered to call proactively now. To prevent Ethan from disturbing me with messages or calls, I thought it over and decided to find all his contact information and block them all. But what surprised me was that Ethan, unable to reach me, actually came to my door. I thought it was my parents returning, so I went to open the door, but when I opened it, I found it was Ethan. His face was extremely ugly, his eyes filled with anger. Before I could react and close the door, he stepped in. "Claire, I really underestimated you. You actually went to complain to my mom. I just took Coco to the hospital, didn't even get to see the doctor, and she forced me to come find you. Since when did you become so selfish? Ethan said angrily, then suddenly sneered. Aren't you just mad because I didn't walk through the ceremony with you today? Come on, let's go have the wedding again and get the marriage certificate. But I'll say this up front, once you become Mrs. Ethan, you have to change your suspicious and jealous nature. No more causing trouble for Coco. After saying that, he grabbed my arm and tried to pull me away. I was so shocked by his words that my reaction was delayed, and the more I looked at him, the more I felt that I had been blind before. I actually wasted 3 years on a person like this. That wave of regret clogged my heart, and I gritted my teeth, trying to shake his hand off. Ethan, let go of me. I've already decided to break off the engagement with you. But Ethan, hearing Coco's words, was convinced that I was threatening him with a breakup. He wore a stern face, not only refusing to let go but gripping even tighter. Claire, even if you're making a scene, there has to be a limit. If you keep making a fuss because of Coco, it will only make me think you're too selfish. His words made my chest ache with anger. Seeing that I couldn't communicate with him, I looked around, grabbed the small vase on the shoe cabinet, and smashed it hard on his head. I used all my strength at once. Ethan's pupils contracted sharply, and he finally released his grip on my arm. Claire, you. Ethan's temple was bleeding from being hit, and he looked at me in shock and disbelief. I moved my wrist, which was numb and painful from his grip, and looked him in the eyes, feeling not a trace of regret in my heart. To deal with someone who can't communicate normally, you have to take action. Holding a small vase, I spoke unusually calmly. Ethan, I really want to break up with you. I can't tolerate having a future partner who is too timing, so I don't want any more. I wish you and Coco a happy union, and don't come to bother me again. Ethan looked at me with calm, unfamiliar eyes, finally realizing that I wasn't just messing with him. While he couldn't believe it, he instinctively tried to hold me back. Claire, are you still upset about what happened at the wedding? I can explain. Coco has been in poor health these past few years. Every time he explained, it was always about Coco. After such a long time, he hasn't gotten tired of saying it, but I have. I interrupted him irritably. I told you, I have nothing to do with you anymore. You don't need to say these things to me again. If you have time to spare, you might as well go to the hospital and take care of your little childhood friend. In the past, when I stopped Ethan from taking care of Coco, he would turn and question why I couldn't be more magnanimous like other women. He even said that my suspicious and jealous behavior made him feel more and more suffocated being with me. But now I don't want him anymore. Let him go take care of the person he can't stop worrying about. Instead, he gets even angrier. Ethan's eyes were red as he looked at me angrily. Claire, what exactly is wrong with you? If you really care so much about Coco, we can talk it over properly. Can you stop speaking in such a sarcastic tone? I was a bit confused. He often told me with full confidence that it was only natural for a brother to take care of his sister. If I was unhappy or angry, it was just overthinking, not trusting his character. So why now, when I calmly state the facts, does it come across as sarcasm to him? I looked at Ethan in front of me, his eyes full of extreme anger, and felt there was no way to communicate with him. Forget it, think whatever you want. Just don't bother me anymore in the future. After saying that, I closed the door behind me. Outside the door, Ethan knocked hard unwillingly and shouted, Claire, come out and make things clear. We've been together for 3 years, I don't believe you can be so heartless. I frowned in annoyance and warned him in exasperation, Ethan, if you don't leave now, I'll call the police. Ethan was stunned on the spot when he heard what Claire said. Call the police? Claire's voice sounded full of impatience, and for a moment, he couldn't even tell if she was really angry or truly about to break up with him. This time, the situation seemed different from before. Ethan knew in his heart that Claire often felt uncomfortable because he was too close to Coco. Claire frequently argued with him over Coco, and he had seen Claire holding back tears with red eyes more than once. He felt guilty and had actually thought about keeping his distance from Coco, but he couldn't do it. Coco's family went bankrupt, and now she was alone and helpless. They grew up together, and he should help her. Not only him, but Claire, as Coco's future sister-in-law, should also learn to be magnanimous and tolerant. Ethan thought that he couldn't always indulge Claire's childish tantrums. So he advised Claire to be generous, but when Claire refused to listen, he simply put on a cold face. He had been with Claire for 3 years, he knew how much Claire loved him, and he also knew that with the wedding approaching, Claire wouldn't give up on him just because of a quarrel. Therefore, even though he knew it was excessive for Coco to pester him to drink the nuptial cup at the wedding, he still went along with Coco to teach Claire a lesson. Ethan thought that as long as Claire was a bit more magnanimous and turned a blind eye to his frequent help to Coco, he would definitely treat her better in the future. The only thing he didn't expect was that Claire seemed truly angry this time. Ethan frowned deeply, the sharp pain on his forehead was unusually intense. He opened his mouth, wanting to softly coax Claire and ask for her forgiveness. But for nearly a year, it had always been Claire chasing after him to make up, and he had gotten used to this way. Now, being the one to lower his head and coax someone, he suddenly found it hard to say. Ethan stood there, not knowing what to do, when a call came in. He was about to irritably hang up, only to realize it was Coco calling. His expression changed slightly, and he immediately answered. The next second, Coco's weak voice came from the other end of the line. "Ethan, I feel so bad, can you come to the hospital to see me?" Ethan instinctively wanted to agree, but thinking of the angry Claire, the words somehow couldn't come out. "Ethan, why aren't you saying anything? Did your sister-in-law not let you come?" "You can give the phone to your sister-in-law, let me talk to her, I won't take up too much of your time." Coco's voice was as pitiful as ever. Ethan never thought much of it before, but now hearing it suddenly felt a bit strange. He suppressed the strangeness in his heart and spoke calmly. "No, your sister-in-law didn't stop me from coming. Don't overthink it, I'll be there soon." After hanging up the phone, Ethan thought for a moment, then finally said coldly towards the door, "Claire, marriage is not something to mess around with. You're angry right now, I don't blame you. Calm down, bring your documents tomorrow morning, I'll come pick you up to register the marriage." Ethan really couldn't bring himself to say words of apology, but he felt that even if Claire was still angry, by the time he said this, she should have calmed down. He was still worried about Coco, so he had to go check on her. As for Claire, after they got married, he would make it up to her with a better wedding. Through the door, I heard Ethan softly finish his call with Coco, then immediately coldly notify me, which made me frown in disgust. Does Ethan not understand human language? I've already broken up with him, yet he still plans to register our marriage tomorrow. He clearly can't let go of the childhood sweetheart he grew up with, but he still wants to trap me by his side. I've never seen such a disgusting person. I was truly blinded by his appearance before. I called the community security guard and told them not to let Ethan in anymore. After doing this, I suddenly received a few text messages. Seeing the familiar phone number, my eyes turned cold. I reached out and clicked to see what Coco had sent this time. As soon as I opened it, I saw a photo, and the person in the photo was someone I knew all too well. It was Ethan's sleeping profile. "Claire, when Ethan accompanied me to the beach to relax before, I should have told you that we booked 2 rooms. But that night there happened to be thunder, and Ethan was worried about me, so he slept in my room. This matter has been weighing on my mind for a long time. After much thought, I still feel I should tell you. But don't worry, we didn't do anything. It was my fault, so please don't be mad at Ethan." After reading these messages, my stomach churned violently, and I almost vomited from disgust. Coco has always liked doing things that seem like apologies but are actually provocations. When Ethan brought her brown sugar water and heat packs during her painful period, she proactively told me and then apologized. She twisted her ankle and had Ethan carry her like a princess to the hospital. Afterwards, she felt guilty and uneasy and apologized to me. She apologizes every time, and every time I get so angry I can't sleep. At that time, I confronted Ethan with a message, asking him if he could keep his distance from Coco. He glanced at the message, frowned, and said, "Coco apologizing to you proactively is because she's afraid that if you find out someday, you'll feel uncomfortable. Can you stop overthinking it?" I had a huge fight with Ethan in anger, and the next day Coco messaged me, saying that her original intention was to avoid misunderstandings and that I should not overthink or take it out on Ethan. I endured the disgust and tolerated her again and again because, apart from caring for her, Ethan really hadn't done anything beyond the bounds of principle. I thought Coco was just one-sidedly hopeful and planned to wait until she realized there was no chance and gave up. Unexpectedly, in the end, the one who was played around by this one-sided hope was me. Just thinking about the two of them sharing a bed, and Ethan calling me dirty-minded and making me apologize, makes me feel disgusted and uncomfortable. No, I should say both that scumbag and that slut make me so disgusted I want to vomit. Gritting my teeth, I directly took screenshots of the messages and photos Coco sent, then posted them on Facebook with the caption, "We're done." Everyone in my circle knows that my wedding with Ethan didn't go through. Many people have been asking if it was because of Coco, but I haven't sorted out my feelings yet and didn't know how to respond. Now it's fine, no need to explain one by one. Everyone can understand by looking at Facebook. Less than a minute after posting on Facebook, a friend commented, "Damn, this thick tea flavor is almost spilling out of the screen, so shameless. Good breakup, wishing the scumbag and the bitch get locked up." They really should be locked up. People like them should be together for life and not harm others anymore. Coco probably didn't expect me to suddenly post the message she sent on Facebook. She frantically called me, and after I blocked her, she tried to add me on Facebook again. I blocked her completely. In the end, Ethan somehow borrowed a phone and called me. As soon as I answered, he angrily said, "Claire, you need to delete Facebook immediately. Do you know how much impact this will have on Coco?" I faintly heard Coco sobbing nearby. I felt speechless. Didn't you say she sent the message to apologize to avoid misunderstandings? So why are you reacting so strongly now that I showed everyone her apology text? This is not the same thing. Ethan wanted to say more, but I didn't want to listen anymore, so I hung up and blocked the number. When another unknown number called, I simply put my phone on silent. Ethan couldn't get through, his brows furrowing deeper and deeper. If before he was confident about comforting Claire, now he was completely at a loss. Claire's attitude was too cold, and now he was panicked and uneasy. Coco lay on the hospital bed, crying with red eyes, occasionally glancing at Ethan. But this time Ethan didn't comfort her like before. Frustrated and out of patience, Ethan turned and scolded her, "Can you stop crying? If you hadn't sent those messages to Claire, she wouldn't have taken it out on me." Ethan was really angry. He told Coco to stop talking because he was afraid Claire would misunderstand their relationship. At that time, he was indeed worried about Coco, but nothing really happened between them. Now that Coco has sent those messages, no matter how much he explains, it definitely won't clear things up. Coco was startled by him, looking at him in shock and grievance. After all, they had known each other for so long, and Ethan had never lost his temper with her before. "Ethan, don't be angry, Ethan didn't have the time to listen to her nonsense, his mind was fully focused on how to make Claire feel better. Ignoring Coco's attempts to hold him back, he turned and walked out of the hospital room. Ethan drove to the building where Claire lived, intending to go in and find someone like he did in the afternoon, but he was stopped by the security guards. They said Claire had told them not to let him in. Ethan was shocked and even more panicked inside. No matter how fierce their arguments were before, Claire had never treated him like this. It seemed she was really angry this time. Ethan was blocked outside, he couldn't get through to Claire on the phone, but he didn't give up. He asked the security guards to call Claire and tell her he was waiting outside. The guards glanced at him but didn't move. Ethan clenched his fists in anger, feeling embarrassed and about to leave when his mother's car stopped nearby. He turned to look and saw his mother get out with a cold expression, while Coco, dressed in patient clothes, was pulled out of the car by a bodyguard. Coco cried with tearful eyes and shouted to him, "Ethan, save me." Ethan frowned and looked at his mother. Although he was angry with Coco, he didn't want to see her treated like this. Just as he was about to speak, his mother walked over and slapped Coco with the back of her hand. "It's all because of you, you bitch, that my son and daughter-in-law have grown apart, and the company's stock price keeps falling." When Ethan heard the latter half of his mother's words, his expression changed immediately. He no longer cared about Coco and urgently grabbed his mother's arm, asking, "Mom, what's going on with the company? Didn't it stabilize these past couple of days?" His mother turned to look at him, her eyes filled with frustration. "I told you before, no matter how worried you are about Coco, you can't make Claire too angry, but you just wouldn't listen. Now it's settled, the couple from the Jiang family hasn't even returned yet, and they've already announced the cancellation of the engagement. If you don't soothe Claire today, the company is finished. Ethan's face gradually turned pale, and the next second he turned to force the security guard to call Claire. I finally decided to come down. Although this entire villa area is our family's property, it's so late that I still need to handle things quickly to get people to leave, so as not to disturb the other residents. Ethan's mother was the first to see me. Her face instantly filled with smiles, just as enthusiastic as when she first took Ethan to my house to introduce us. Claire, regarding what happened today, Auntie is here to give you an explanation. You should know Ethan's character, he's not the type to act recklessly. It's all because of that bitch Coco, who wants to marry into the Xie family and is staging this herself. I brought the person to you and have already taught her a lesson. After today, I will send her far away so she can never bother you two again. Ethan's mother said this last part with a hint of cruelty in her tone. Coco widened her eyes in fear and kept shaking her head, looking to Ethan for help. Anyone could see that Ethan's mother intended to send Coco far away to suffer, but Ethan, who usually cared for her, showed no reaction at all. I stared steadily at Ethan. When he saw me looking at him, he thought I was asking if he had any objections. He immediately shook his head, forced a smile, and said to me, "Claire, don't worry, I have no objections. Recently, Coco has indeed done many excessive things, so sending her away is the right thing to do." Ethan's mother heard her son's words, looked at him with satisfaction, and nodded along. Once she is sent away, Auntie will immediately start preparing for the wedding. Auntie promises you, this time no one will cause any trouble, and the wedding will definitely go smoothly. I heard this and suddenly couldn't help but laugh out loud. Then, I looked mockingly at Ethan, who was eagerly waiting for my agreement. "Ethan, you are truly disappointing." Ethan's expression changed when he heard my words. He looked at me nervously. "What's wrong, Claire? Is there something you're still unhappy about?" I looked at him calmly and replied with a question instead of an answer. "Aren't you going to turn around and look at your little childhood friend? You're the only one here who cares about her. Are you really not going to say anything to help her?" Coco glared at me fiercely when she heard my words, then looked at Ethan expectantly. Ethan stiffened all over when I asked, probably thinking I was still angry. Avoiding Coco's gaze, he said firmly, "She has impure intentions and is hoping for things that don't belong to her. I have nothing to help her with." So, Ethan actually always knew that Coco liked him. He was just pretending to be clueless and enjoying the ambiguity. My gaze turned cold, and that feeling of disgust surged up again. Probably because my eyes were too indifferent, Ethan anxiously tried to make excuses for himself. "I've always treated Coco like a sister and told her to keep her distance, but she wouldn't listen. Every time something happens, she comes to me. I just can't ignore her." I watched helplessly as Coco's look at him changed from hopeful to disappointed, and now to hatred. "You're lying!" Coco shouted, and the next second Ethan's mother covered her mouth. Ethan's mother gave an awkward smile and told me, "Claire, you must not listen to her nonsense. People like her can say any kind of lie. After talking to them for so long, I really had enough of their attitude." I directly said to Ethan, "If you protect Coco like you did before today, I might have thought better of you." Ethan's smile couldn't be maintained. "Claire, what do you mean by that?" I sneered coldly, "It means I look down on you. You don't need to come looking for me anymore. The person who once made me suffer everywhere for the sake of his childhood sweetheart is now willing to abandon her to keep me. I not only don't feel touched, but rather feel relieved. Relieved that I saw Ethan clearly earlier and didn't really marry him. If I had been with someone like that, not only my family fortune, but I might not even have been able to guarantee my personal safety." I didn't bother to look at him again and turned to leave. Behind me, Ethan shouted heart-wrenchingly, "Claire, I did all this for you, so how dare you look down on me?" Ethan's mother was so scared that she turned her head and told him to be quiet, then forced a smile and said, "Claire, you may be angry, but breaking off the engagement is not something you can do lightly. Just do it for Auntie's sake and forgive Ethan one more time." I was extremely annoyed and turned to the security guards, saying, "If they don't leave, call the police to get them out." The CI group was in chaos. If Ethan and his mother were asked to leave by the police at this time, it would only affect them. Ethan's mother knew this well, and with a sullen face, she called the unwilling Ethan to leave. I thought I could finally have some peace, but the next day I received flowers Ethan left at the security office. There was a card stuck in the flowers, handwritten by Ethan himself. Claire, I wrapped these flowers myself. After all these years of our relationship, I still want to continue walking this path with you. I was so disgusted that I couldn't stand it, and my parents, who rushed back, were equally sickened. My mom disdainfully told someone to throw the flowers away, saying, "It still has to be a match made in heaven. We shouldn't have helped them in the first place." I agreed with my mom's words. At that time, I thought Ethan was a good person and wanted to help him. If he was grateful, he would definitely treat me well in the future. Who knew Ethan would be not only ungrateful but also inherently bad? My dad next to me snorted coldly, "That kid has too much free time to be sending flowers, he's living too well. I'll find something for him to do right away." My dad has been unhappy for a long time about Ethan always making me suffer, so he whispered a few words to his assistant and told the assistant to handle it quickly. I smiled without saying a word, waiting for Ethan to be in a frenzy. It turns out, my dad is just my dad. In the following days, Ethan and his mom were running around for company matters and had no time to bother me anymore. Every day, I went out shopping with my mom to relax. When we had free time, she told me that Ethan had gone to see my dad once but was immediately kicked out by him. I just felt a surge of anger in my heart and thought he deserved it. A few days later, I heard that Ethan's mom was taking Ethan every day, humbly trying to attract investors, hoping to save the Xie family business. But Ethan and I, more or less everyone in the circle knows about us. No one is willing to invest in a thankless person. Ethan and his mother have hit obstacles everywhere, and they were even caught arguing on the street. I watch their latest news on time every day. Their embarrassment has been my mental damage compensation for the past 3 years. The only thing I didn't expect was that when the Xie family needed help the most, Coco ran away with the Xie family's gold, silver, and jewels. Ethan and Ethan's mother went crazy looking for her, but they couldn't find her no matter what. The company's cash flow ran into problems. The money they had left was nowhere near enough to cover the deficit, so they had to file for bankruptcy. On the day the Xie family went bankrupt and was liquidated, my parents and I boarded a plane, planning to have a good trip to relax for a while.